expecting royal treatment, but instead gets the reality check of a lifetime. In just 36 seconds of one comment, everything unraveled. Tamron Hall sat across from Prince Harry in her studio, the lights bright and the cameras rolling. She wore a professional smile, the kind that television hosts, perfect over years of experience. Harry settled into his chair with a casual confidence that suggested he owned the room. "Welcome to the show," Tamron said warmly. "We're so glad to have you here today." Harry nodded, barely making eye contact. "Right. Thanks for having me." Tamron leaned forward slightly, her notes resting on her lap. "I want to start by talking about your recent charitable work. You've been quite vocal about several causes." "Well, yes," Harry interrupted before she could finish. "I think it's important that someone with my platform speaks up. Not everyone has the courage to do what I do." Tamron's smile tightened, just a fraction. "That's interesting. Can you tell us more about the specific organizations you're working with?" Harry waved his hand dismissively. "There are so many, I can hardly keep track. But that's what my people are for, isn't it? They handle the details." The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Tamron maintained her composure. Years of professional training, keeping her expression neutral. "Your people," Tamron repeated carefully. "So you're not directly involved in the day-to-day operations?" "Good Lord, no," Harry laughed. "Can you imagine? I'm there for the important bits. The photo opportunities, the speeches. That's where someone like me adds value." Tamron nodded slowly. "I see. And what would you say to critics who suggest that celebrity involvement in charity can sometimes overshadow the actual work being done?" Harry's expression hardened. "Critics? Let me tell you something about critics, Tamron. They're usually just jealous. They don't understand what it's like to carry the weight of public expectation." "Well, I think many people carry different kinds of weight," Tamron responded evenly. "Healthcare workers, teachers, single parents working multiple jobs." "Oh, please," Harry scoffed. "That's not the same thing at all. I was born into scrutiny. Everything I do is examined under a microscope. These people you're talking about, they chose their paths." The audience gasped audibly. Tamron sat up straighter in her chair. "They chose their paths?" she repeated, her voice measured but firm. "Are you suggesting that a single mother working 2 jobs to feed her children has it easier than you?" Harry rolled his eyes. "You're twisting my words. I'm saying it's different. I didn't ask to be born into the royal family. I didn't ask for this burden." "But you do benefit from it," Tamron pointed out. "The wealth, the opportunities, the platform you just mentioned using for charity." "Benefits?" Harry's voice rose. "You call constant media attention a benefit? You call having no privacy a benefit?" Tamron remained calm, her hands folded in her lap. "I call having access to the best education, healthcare, and opportunities in the world a benefit, yes. Millions of people would trade places with you in a heartbeat." "That's because they don't know what it's really like," Harry shot back. "They see the crown and the castles. They don't see the sacrifice." "Help me understand the sacrifice," Tamron said. "Because from where I'm sitting, and from where most of our audience is sitting, it looks like privilege." Harry's face flushed red. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. Nobody understands. You sit here in your little talk show chair and think you can judge me," the audience murmured. Tamron's expression didn't change. "I'm not judging you," she said quietly. "I'm asking you questions. That's what journalists do." "Journalists?" Harry sneered. "Is that what you call yourself? You're a talk show host. You read off cards and smile for the camera." The studio went silent. Even the camera operators stopped moving. Tamron took a slow breath. "I've been a journalist for over 20 years, she said, her voice steady, but with an edge of steel beneath it. "I've reported from war zones. I've covered natural disasters. I've interviewed world leaders and everyday heroes. I've earned every single thing I have." "Oh, here we go," Harry muttered. "The whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps speech." Actually, yes, Tamron continued, because that's what most people have to do. They don't get handed castles and titles at birth. They work for what they have. Harry stood up abruptly, his microphone cord yanking tight. I don't have to sit here and be lectured by you. Then don't, Tamron said simply, standing as well. But if you're going to come on my show and insult hardworking people, insult me, and act like the world owes you something, then maybe you shouldn't be here at all. Maybe I shouldn't, Harry snapped. This show is beneath me anyway. Small-time American television with a host who doesn't know her place. The audience gasped again, louder this time. Tamron's jaw tightened. Doesn't know her place? She repeated slowly. And where exactly is my place, according to you? Harry gestured around the studio. Certainly not questioning someone of my stature. You should be grateful I even agreed to come on this program. Tamron walked around her chair, standing tall. Let me be very clear about something. This is my show, my studio, my audience. And nobody, I don't care what title they were born with, comes in here and disrespects me or the people watching. Disrespect? Harry laughed bitterly. You don't even know the meaning of the word. Try being hounded by photographers your entire life. Try having every move scrutinized. You know what? Tamron said, her voice rising for the first time. A lot of people have hard lives. A lot of people face real struggles, real poverty, real discrimination, real loss, and they don't get to cry about it from their mansions. How dare you, Harry hissed. You have no idea what I've been through. And you have no idea what billions of other people go through every single day, Tamron fired back. People who don't have the luxury of complaining on talk shows because they're too busy trying to survive. Harry's face contorted with anger. I came here in good faith to discuss important issues. And you've turned this into an attack. You came here and insulted working people, Tamron corrected. You insulted single parents. You insulted me and my profession. You called my show small time and said I don't know my place. That's not good faith. That's arrogance. I'm done with this, Harry declared, reaching for his microphone pack. Actually, you are, Tamron agreed. Security, please escort our guest out of the building. Harry froze, his hand still on the microphone. Excuse me? You heard me, Tamron said firmly. This interview is over. You need to leave. You can't kick me off your show, Harry sputtered. Do you know who I am? I know exactly who you are, Tamron said, and that's why I'm asking you to leave. Because title or no title, nobody talks to me like that in my own house. 2 security guards appeared from the wings. Harry looked at them, then at Tamron, then at the stunned audience. This is outrageous, he protested. Wait until people hear about this. They're going to hear about it, Tamron said calmly, because this is going to air, and they're going to see exactly what happened here today. They're going to see someone who thinks his birth makes him better than everyone else. Harry's mouth opened and closed like a fish. You wouldn't dare air this. Watch me, Tamron said. I've built my career on truth, and the truth is what just happened here. You came on my show, you were disrespectful, and you're being asked to leave. That's the story. The security guards stepped closer. One of them spoke quietly. Sir, we need you to come with us. Harry looked around wildly, as if searching for someone to intervene. The crew members avoided his gaze. The audience sat in stunned silence. This isn't over, Harry said, his voice shaking with rage. My lawyers will hear about this. I'm sure they will, Tamron replied. And my lawyers are ready. Now please leave before this gets any more embarrassing for you. Harry yanked off his microphone, the pack clattering to the floor. You'll regret this. You have no idea the kind of power I have. Tamron crossed her arms. And you have no idea the kind of backbone I have. I've faced down bigger bullies than you. Now get out of my studio. The security guards each took one of Harry's arms gently but firmly. He tried to shake them off. Don't touch me, he snapped. I'll walk myself out. Then walk, Tamron said simply. Harry straightened his jacket with sharp, angry movements. He glared at Tamron one last time. You're making a huge mistake. No, Tamron said quietly. You made the mistake when you thought you could come in here and treat people like they're beneath you. Harry turned and stalked toward the exit, the security guards following close behind. Just before he reached the door, he spun around. You're nothing, he called out. Just another American talk show host. There are 100 of you. Tamron didn't flinch. And there's only one of you, a prince who just got kicked off a talk show for acting like a spoiled child. I wonder how that's going to play in the press you claim to hate so much. Harry's face went pale. For a moment, the reality of what had just happened seemed to hit him. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Goodbye, Tamron said firmly. The door closed behind him with a heavy thud. The studio remained silent for several long seconds. Then Tamron turned to face the audience, her professional composure sliding back into place like armor. Well, she said, and a few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. That was not how I planned to spend this afternoon. The audience erupted into applause. Tamron held up her hands. I want to say something, she continued, and the clapping died down. I don't care who you are or where you come from. Rich, poor, royal, regular. If you come into my space and disrespect the people who work hard every day to make a living, to take care of their families, to build something from nothing, I will always stand up. Always. More applause. Louder this time. Tamron smiled, a real smile now. I've interviewed presidents, and I've interviewed people whose names you'll never know, but whose stories are just as important, maybe more important. And I will never, ever let anyone suggest that one human being is worth more than another just because of the family they were born into. A woman in the front row stood up, clapping. Then another person stood, and another, until the entire audience was on their feet. Tamron's eyes glistened slightly, but she kept her composure. Thank you. But honestly, I didn't do anything special. I just refuse to be treated like I don't matter. And I hope everyone watching at home knows that you don't have to accept that treatment either. Not from anyone. She turned to the camera, she looking directly into the lens. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue with our scheduled programming, because the show goes on, with or without princes who don't know how to behave. The red light on the camera went dark. The audience continued applauding. Tamron waved and walked off the stage, her head held high. Backstage, her producer rushed up to her. Tamron, that was incredible. Are you okay? Tamron nodded, letting out a long breath. I'm fine. Is he gone? Security escorted him all the way to his car. He was furious. Good, Tamron said simply. Let him be furious. Maybe it'll teach him something, though I doubt it. Her makeup artist appeared with a powder brush. You're a hero. That guy was awful. He was raised to think he's special, Tamron said, tilting her face up for a touch-up. But special and decent are two different things. You can be born with every advantage in the world and still be a terrible person. The producer checked her watch. We're back in 2 minutes. Are you ready to continue? Tamron checked her reflection in a monitor. Absolutely. What's next on the schedule? We have the teacher from Ohio who started the free lunch program for low-income students. Tamron smiled. Perfect. Now that's someone actually worth talking to. Someone who's making a real difference without expecting the world to bow down to them. She walked back onto the set, settling into her chair. The audience was still buzzing with energy from what they'd witnessed. Tamron could hear fragments of conversation. Can you believe he said that? She handled that so well. I would have lost my temper way sooner. The stage manager counted down. And we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2. Tamron's professional smile returned, warm and genuine. Welcome back. Now, I promised you we'd move on to something much more inspiring. My next guest is someone who truly understands what it means to serve others without expecting anything in return. As she introduced the teacher, Tamron felt a sense of satisfaction. She'd stood her ground. She'd defended her dignity and the dignity of working people everywhere. And she'd done it on camera for everyone to see. Before the teacher interview began, Tamron took a moment to collect herself. She looked at the audience, many of whom were still processing what they'd just witnessed. "I want to clarify something before we continue," she said during the commercial break. "What you saw was real. That was not staged. That was not planned for ratings. That was a genuine conversation that went very wrong." The audience nodded, some wiping their eyes. One woman raised her hand tentatively. "Yes," Tamron acknowledged her. "I'm a single mom working 3 jobs," the woman said, her voice shaking. "When he said we chose our paths, like it was easy." "Thank you for saying what you said." Tamron's expression softened. "What's your name?" "Jennifer." "Jennifer, how old are your kids?" 6 and 8. "And you work 3 jobs to take care of them?" "Yes, I clean offices at night, I work retail during the day, and I do food delivery on weekends." Tamron nodded slowly. "That's not a choice. That's survival. That's love. And that's sacrifice. Real sacrifice. Not the kind where you complain about photographers while living in a palace." The audience applauded again. Jennifer wiped her eyes. "You are the real hero," Tamron continued. "You and millions like you. People who don't have trust funds or titles, but who show up every single day and do what needs to be done." The stage manager signaled that they were about to go live again. Tamron straightened in her chair, but her expression remained serious. "I'm not going to pretend that didn't just happen," she said to the audience. "And I'm not going to move on like everything is fine, because it's not fine. It's not okay for anyone to treat working people with contempt. And I will call it out every single time." The red light came on. Tamron took a breath and smiled at the camera. The interview with the teacher went beautifully. The woman, whose name was Maria, spoke about starting a program that provided free lunches to students whose families couldn't afford them. She talked about seeing children come to school hungry and knowing she had to do something. "I started with my own money," Maria explained, "just making extra sandwiches at home and bringing them in. Then some other teachers joined in. Then local businesses started donating. Now we feed 200 kids every day." 200 children, Tamron repeated. "And you started this yourself, out of your own pocket, on a teacher's salary." "Well, yes," Maria said modestly, "but it wasn't about the money. It was about the kids. They can't learn if they're hungry. They can't focus. They can't be children. Someone had to help." Tamron felt a lump in her throat. This woman, who probably made less in a year than Harry spent on a single vacation, was feeding hungry children out of her own pocket. And she did it without expecting praise or recognition. She just did it because it needed to be done. "You have 3 children of your own, correct?" Tamron asked. "Yes, and honestly, sometimes it's tight financially," Maria admitted. "But I look at these kids at school, and I think about what if that was my child? What if my baby was going hungry? I'd want someone to help. So I help." The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word. This was what real character looked like. Real compassion. Real sacrifice. Tamron leaned forward. "What would you say to people who think charity work is about photo opportunities and red carpets?" Maria looked genuinely confused by the question. "I would say they're doing it wrong. Helping people isn't about being seen. It's about seeing others. Really seeing them. Their struggles, their needs, their humanity. And you don't need a title to do that," Tamron added. "Goodness, no," Maria laughed. "You just need a heart and a willingness to act. Some of the most generous people I know have almost nothing, and some of the wealthiest people I've encountered have never lifted a finger to help anyone but themselves." Tamron glanced at the camera. She didn't need to say anything. The contrast between Maria and the previous guest was stark and undeniable. They continued talking for another 15 minutes. Maria shared stories about the children, their dreams, their resilience. She talked about a little boy who wanted to be a doctor someday, and a girl who loved to read but didn't have books at home. She spoke with such genuine affection and respect for these kids that several audience members were crying. When the segment ended, Tamron stood and hugged Maria. "You are extraordinary. Thank you for the work you do." "Thank you for having me," Maria said. "And thank you for what you did earlier. Standing up for regular people. We don't always have a voice." It meant a lot. After Maria left, Tamron addressed the audience one more time before the show ended. "Today, you saw two very different kinds of people," she said. "One who thinks the world owes him everything because of his birth, and one who gives everything to the world despite having very little. I know which one I respect. I know which one actually matters." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I've interviewed some of the most famous people on this planet. Actors, musicians, athletes, politicians. And you know what I've learned? Fame doesn't equal character. Wealth doesn't equal worth. A title doesn't make you a good person. How you treat others, especially those who can do nothing for you, that's what reveals who you really are." The audience gave her a standing ovation as the show's closing music began to play. Tamron waved and walked off the set, her head high, her conscience clear. Backstage, the energy was electric. Crew members who'd worked in television for decades were saying they'd never seen anything like it. "That was incredible," one camera operator said. "I've shot 1,000 interviews, and I've never seen a host stand up to a guest like that." Tamron's producer pulled her aside. "I just got off the phone with the network. They're fully behind you. They said you handled it perfectly." "I wasn't worried about the network," Tamron replied. "I was worried about doing the right thing." "Well, you did. And it's already going viral. Social media is exploding. People are calling you a hero." Tamron shook her head. "I'm not a hero. I just refuse to be disrespected. That's baseline human dignity, not heroism." Her assistant approached with her phone. "You have about 100 messages. Other journalists, celebrities, politicians. Everyone wants to comment." "Let them comment," Tamron said. The tape speaks for itself." She went to her dressing room and sat down, allowing the adrenaline to fade. Her hands were shaking slightly. Not from fear or regret, but from the intensity of what had just happened. There was a knock on the door. "Come in," she called. It was one of the show's producers. "How are you doing?" she asked quietly. Tamron smiled. "I'm good, really." "That took guts. What you did out there." "It took self-respect," Tamron corrected. "I wasn't about to let someone act like I'm beneath him." "You know he's probably going to trash you to the press." "Let him," Tamron said. "The truth is on tape. People saw what happened. They heard what he said." "You've always been fearless. That's why I love working with you." "I'm not fearless," Tamron admitted. "I'm just tired of people thinking they can treat others like garbage. Someone has to stand up and say no." After she left, Tamron looked at herself in the mirror again. She thought about all the times in her career when she'd been underestimated or dismissed. She thought about the battles she'd fought to get to this chair. And she thought about Harry, who'd been handed everything and still thought he was the victim. Her phone buzzed with a text from a colleague. "You just reminded everyone why journalism matters." Tamron typed back, "Just doing my job." But deep down, she knew it was more than that. It was about dignity, about refusing to accept being treated as lesser. She gathered her things and headed out. In the parking garage, she sat in her car for a moment. It had been quite a day. A day that reminded her exactly why she did what